Welcome everybody to Blerdlines. It's your man Cam. With me as always is
Mr. Cam squared himself. I didn't have a name to say out loud because I drew a blank, but we are here.
as well as
Darth Coconut, the Dark Lord of the Caribbean Sith, aka Big Josh.
and as always keeping us honest,
Professor D, whose lectures and commentary is
and if you haven't noticed, we are here talking about season 4. Just wrapped and it was a doozy. For those of you that are in the know, if you're a comic book fan, you're waiting for THRAGG to show up. And when he did, he definitely put a foot in everyone's ass.
The tension has definitely ratcheted up 100-fold. It's about Mark, but it's not just about Mark. Things are going on with his mom and her husband slash ex-husband. Nolan trying to sort of make good. Not sort of. He's deliberately, painfully trying to make good. And trying to make up for all the destruction and pain that he's caused and the deaths that he's responsible for. And in classic fashion, he realizes there's only so much he can do to make up for those things, and that sort of sets the emotional tone for a lot of the things that happen in the season. And watching Mark getting disemboweled is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in animated anything.
Conquest tested him on the level of Darwinism. An apex predator come to prey on him and his family and the people that he cares about. And so that scene, fast forward into this season, where there was no doubt in his mind that he was going to kill Conquest. And we've seen him hesitate. Even after that, we've seen him hesitate. But when he saw Conquest, he saw red. And there was nothing that even Conquest's disembowelment of him was not going to stop him from making sure that Conquest died. He wasn't going to die until he felt Conquest's life leave him. And so that was great, setting up the moment for Oliver and Nolan to have their moment. Nolan had just made a mistake of allowing Oliver to hear him say that his mother didn't mean anything to him. She was just a stop on his way. So all these emotional factors, and then building up to the reuniting of Debbie and Nolan and her angry monologue to him, breaking her hands, hitting his chest. Those were really solidly paced hours of television, better than some live action shows.
One thing I've noted from most of the seasons leading up to season 4 is that there is always some type of sacrifice of the few to save the many in some capacity with each character, where the dad, Nolan, finding out that his son has powers and what that ultimately means in hindsight, saying what Thaddeus sacrificing, knowing that he's killing his own clan and whatnot, with the improved virus that's waiting in the wings and stuff. For each character or each situation, there's no easy answer. There is no, if we do this, everything is going to be happy.
You want to push the character through their choices. You want to push the character through the plot, not the plot through the character. And this is one of the best examples, live action or animated, of a show that pushes these characters through the plot and exacts consequences. There's a toll for everything. I think that's the thing that makes the show so good and so relatable and so watchable.
It's really Mark's relationships that make him invincible. It's not his powers. Yep. It's his relationships and his choices. And the choices that he makes, because he faces a lot of big time choices. The finale with THRAGG and that choice that he gives them, he's like, what I just told you, I don't envy you, because what I just told you is no choice at all. That's what makes THRAGG such an interesting antagonist, is that he is not evil. You can't call him evil. He believes in a very specific philosophy and ideology about his own existence and his species' existence. But he's not irrational. I don't think he actually intended to kill most of them. I think he just wanted Thaddeus at first. But when they committed their own little moral event horizon. And as I said this to Josh, I'm like, no matter how you feel, what they did was wrong. That's why Mark had such bad trauma when they came back. That's why he was restless. He couldn't shake out of his head that yeah, they won the war, but what they did to win it was wrong. And you couldn't blame THRAGG if they came there and wrecked shop.
And I think the beauty of having a THRAGG is none of the characters that we're rooting for can beat THRAGG outright. Like nobody can. He's unbeatable. And having a character like usually it's, I don't know, you can Dragon Ball Z it and he finds another level to his power and then he's able to beat the new bad guy and then another guy comes along and he's able to find another level and beat
when
that guy.
The Dace is in the Machina.
Yeah, for 100%. And this ain't that. Like he's not beating THRAGG. Nolan's not beating THRAGG.
No.
None of them are. None of them can touch THRAGG.
And Kirkman wrote it that way so that he could create an alternative to to subvert the expectation, which is that ultimately as superheroes they will gain and find the power to defeat this individual. He's shown that THRAGG is not necessarily evil that needs to be vanquished as much as he's an ideology that needs to be changed. And that what we saw at the finale is really the first step. So you can say that Mark won the war simply by being able to reach THRAGG.
Can I also include that THRAGG also knows the consequence of ultimately enforcing his will upon the humans, because the humans still have a choice to kill themselves. You're trying to keep your race alive. You need humans. And if you keep pushing them into a corner, they're going to be ultimately like, we're going to sacrifice ourselves. And if we can't win, nobody wins. And he understands that that's the ultimate end goal. And he has to come to a compromise with
and I like that part too.
Yeah. I like that he reassured Mark. He's like, man, you just saved 2 entire species, brother. Like you just permit you, because what THRAGG is basically saying is like, if you say no, if you deny this to us, then we have no choice but to exact our vengeance. And if we exact our vengeance, it means that everybody dies. And it means that ultimately we die. We will be committing suicide because humans are the only other species compatible to restart the species. And since they are long lived, it would make sense that after a specific period of time, they would simply rise up and just put down whatever remains of the human. Because by that time, all the generations will be half human, half Viltrumite, and ultimately, it's less percent human.
And I like that. Again, it goes back to it's a long game, right?
Yeah.
Like the Viltrumites are thousands of years old, right? Like Nolan's 1,000. He's a baby compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
So like to THRAGG's credit, he's like, look, man, we're gonna chill here for a couple generations. We're gonna replenish the ranks. You can stop us, or you can leave us the fuck alone, and we're gonna do our thing. And like, honestly, that again, we go back to choices, right? He could either try to take care of THRAGG and probably destroy the planet, or let him rock and have to deal with them at some point.
And in that moment, right? Kirkman made the biggest statement about superhero in his Subversion, which is Mark did not have to fight THRAGG in order to come to a peaceful resolution, one that he didn't even see being there, and one that he thought he's still in his mind is probably thinking, did he make the right choice? Will this be, and that's the quagmire of a hero. It should always be in all storytelling. They should never come to a point where the road is straightforward. It should always be a spiral, one that could send them into various consequences.
My question ends up being, does Mark tell anyone of the compromise that he came to with THRAGG?
I like that they showed that as the last scene, because then it gives the rest of the audience like, oh man, does he tell his dad? Does he tell like
does he tell anybody? Yeah. Does he tell the agency?
And I think that was a perfect way to leave it, because again, it gives the audience that, again, not familiar with like the whole story, like now they're questioning, right? Like, I don't know. Like, and to like D's credit, when have you seen in TV anyways, where this was a resolution to the big bad, right? The big bad always either gets taken out or wins or whatever, but this was a quiet solution that comes to a compromise, but doesn't necessarily say someone won, or like you said, Mark won the war, quote unquote, or he won the battle, but he didn't really win the war, because it's going to keep going until whenever. And I think
Yeah.
I like that they really did that. And like Lee Pace as the voice of Thragg was brilliant, because he just had that like underscored. He didn't have to raise his voice. He was just very calm and collective, and like
They didn't undercut the stakes in the next couple episodes, which is what you a lot of times get in superhero storytelling, which is you establish that Thragg is unbeatable by anybody that we've seen. So in the next episode, he should not be beaten. So again, it just speaks to, going back to my comment about Kirkman, in that he wrote that understanding that I could potentially be writing myself into a corner, because the Thragg conundrum has to be solved, right? It has to be resolved. But now I give myself ways to resolve it that is unique to this genre, and that is different from what many have seen in a, let's say, if this were Superman versus Darkseid.
It all comes down to like everybody has to make a decision for their own greater good and agenda to either survive, I guess. Eve made a decision, Debbie made a decision, Nolan made a decision, Oliver makes a decision, Stedman makes a decision. Everybody's making decisions that has repercussions for better or worse, which I think is the beauty that is underlined in Invincible without even saying it for me.
As always, thanks for rocking with us. Like, subscribe, shares, all the things. Tell us if we're on some, or if you disagree with us. Let us know. We're always down for feedback.
But you're wrong.
Also, we always down to scrap in the comments if you guys haven't noticed. But yeah, thanks for rocking with us as always. This is Blerdlines, and we out, man. Peace.